Thanks. Okay. All right. So now that I've posted that nonsense, I'm going to give you guys a little explanation about XMAS in July, which is my new feature film. And I'm going to start out, talk about the story a little bit, and then we'll talk about, let me get my hair right here. So I've been wanting to make a film of my own for many years, and I've been working on a lot of projects with a lot of amazing people over the past 8 years, and finally the stars kind of aligned for me to make a project of my own, and I kind of was considering what kind of project it would be, and all I really knew at the outset was that I wanted to make a film that involved all of my friends and the amazing things that they do. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, we're going to be interviewing various members of the cast and crew and some of the designers and some of the influential people involved in this film. Today is just me, and I got to tell you a little bit about it because I try to explain this project to people, and it's a little difficult because it is an adaptation of A Christmas Carol. However, it is a loose adaptation of A Christmas Carol, a psychedelic adaptation, if you will. And so the basic genesis of the idea came from the fact that I love Christmas. I think it's a magical time. The holiday season just has this wonderful feeling to it because it's very cold outside and everybody comes inside, and the holiday cheer kind of feeling, which I think is a magical feeling, and it has to do with the connections between people. So what I try to do in the script is to try to create that feeling a little bit, but also to address the issue of Scrooge and Scrooge's redemption in the Christmas Carol story. So briefly, Ebenezer Scrooge in Charles Dickens' novel, story, which was published in 1843, is basically that he's an old miser, he's a rich guy, and he has had many successes in his life, but he's a total asshole, and and then he's visited by the ghost of his old partner, Jacob Marley, who has recently died, and Jacob Marley says, "Hey man, like I lived just like you, and now I'm a wandering spirit, and I have no peace and no rest, and you know, you have to be a good person, you know, this kind of thing, and you'll be visited by 3 ghosts, and you'll see the past, the present, and the future." And at the end of the story, or almost immediately actually, Scrooge sort of sees the error of his ways. He sees all the horrible things he's done in his life, and he wishes that he could make it right. And then he wakes up in the morning, and all of a sudden it's Christmas, and he can make it right. And he throws his money at everybody. He buys the Cratchit family a big, juicy turkey. And, hey, I got a viewer. Hello. So he buys the Cratchit family a big juicy turkey, and he says, you know, "Merry Christmas! It's wonderful. I love everybody," and everybody in this community accepts him immediately, and they say, "Oh, you know, God bless us, everyone," you know, which is the classic line from Tiny Tim, and it always struck me as problematic that everyone in the story just is so ready to accept Scrooge back into their community after he's exploited it for so long and been such a horrible person for, conceivably, for, you know, 60 or 70 years of his professional life. He's been exploiting these people. I mean, exploiting people for their entire lives and the lives of their children. And then he wakes up one morning and tosses them a gold coin, and they say, "God bless you, sir. God bless you, merry gentlemen," whatever it is. And I always felt like that was disingenuous. And so when I decided to adapt The Christmas Carol into modern day, I wanted to make a story that didn't redeem Scrooge, because I think once Scrooge is Scrooge, once he's this old man, you know, people can be very set in their ways, and I really don't think that people have these sudden changes of heart and do this kinds of thing. And I mean, maybe they do, but if Dickens was trying to create this social message to his time in England, if he was trying to kind of create an awareness of the class distinctions in his culture, and try to force the hand and embarrass and shame the rich people of his time into being better to the poor of his time, in a similar way, I'm trying to create a similar social message. However, I tried to update it so that the redemption is not so much not so cut and dry, and not so just a flip of a coin and then all of a sudden you're a good person, but rather we're trying to make a Scrooge origin story. So this is Scrooge in his youth, and trying to prevent the things that happen to make him this horrible person, and that's the sort of social message of this time. Ooh, 3 viewers. You'll notice I have this gold wall behind me. We're going to be shooting a scene in here from the film on Saturday, so I'm painting that entire side of the apartment gold, and to represent wealth, of course. What else? So, in any case, trying to create a story in which Scrooge doesn't ever become that person, or becomes that horrible person, but only in the fantasy. So we've updated the 3 ghosts into being 3 different alternate futures rather than past, present, future. And in that way, it's similar to the monkey's paw story, which, if you're familiar, you know, it's the monkey's paw, and you get 3 wishes, and each one is worse than the last, and you end up wishing that you had never wished for anything at all. And so that's sort of the way in which we're trying to change the story a little bit. So the story begins with Ebenezer Scrooge as a young man living in New York City with his partner, Cratchit. And so we've taken the character of Bob Cratchit, who is Scrooge's employee, and made that into Scrooge's partner in crime, played by my wife and the performance artist Creighton Atkinson. And Ebenezer and Cratchit are attempting to navigate through life while maintaining some system of values that have to do with community and have to do with their own value inside of the culture. But they struggle to do so because they're faced with the kind of this two-front attack between the monoculture of like office life and suburban life and kind of this narrow focus, and yet expansive sense of general culture in which people are rewarded by conforming. And then as well as the attack from the sort of upper echelons of artistic fields in which there's a tremendous amount of competitive spirit and sort of a lack of community support, simply because the resources aren't there for everyone to get everything they want out of it. And the if those, you know, and so it's sort of a cutthroat environment. So they're faced with these two problematic kind of situations, and Ebenezer visits with his friend Marl, who's the Jacob Marley character, who's being forced out of the city, an older artist who is unable to maintain a lifestyle here in the city and is being sort of ejected out into wherever, into nowhere. And so they're faced with these problems. They wake up in alternate fantasy realities, three realities in which they experience some measure of success. The first of which, Ebenezer Scrooge ascends to the height of a great rock star, and Cratchit ascends to the height of being a very famous, infamous performance artist. And this is sort of the fame paradigm of the whole of the alternate future, or the success of becoming famous in the arts somehow. And these worlds kind of disintegrate over the course of us seeing them, and we see them as this kind of sacrificial loop that people can become trapped in in order to stay famous. You know, they sacrifice so much in order to stay relevant, that kind of a thing. And then we move to section 2, in which, oh geez, I'm out of battery. Just gonna take a pause here and plug this thing in. Excuse me. Zero viewers. One viewer. Hello. Just give me a minute. I'm just plugging this in here. And we're back. And we are back. Just to catch you up, this is a live broadcast about XMAS in July, the upcoming feature film. My name is Joel Clark, and I am the director of the film, and we are trying to get our budget together on Kickstarter. And I am going to try to explain the craziness of this film here today in this live broadcast. So, I had gotten up to part 2, in which Ebenezer and Cratchit, this is modern day, and Ebenezer and Cratchit are trying to find some measure of success or satisfaction in their lives by exploring these alternate fantasy realities. In section 2, Ebenezer and Cratchit live in a country house, a small country house in the middle of nowhere, and they have 2 little children. And however, the children in this fantasy reality are portrayed by 2 child mannequins, which is meant to sort of represent or sort of key people into the fact that this film, these alternate realities, do not have the total. They're simply a veneer of reality, and in fact, they're just a fantasy creation. You know, these are dreams, or that, you know, this is a sort of a typical kind of unreal scenario. So we have these unreal children, and we live in the woods, and we struggle in this situation with a lack of inspiration. And this is sort of, once again, comes back to the kind of community element of this film. As I said before, I'm trying to pull in a large number of artists from different fields and different backgrounds to take part in this film, because I truly feel that collaborating, as I have done for the past 8 years on other films and other projects, I really do feel like collaboration is a way to learn and grow as an artist or as a creator, by really listening to other people and finding out what other people, how other people see things and feel about their various Q&A. This feature is disabled. Bizarre. So in any case, the unreality of the children also is meant to enhance the sort of isolation of Ebenezer and Cratchit when they live in the countryside in section 2. And when they live in the countryside, this lack of inspiration comes from the fact that they never see anybody or talk to anybody who is making anything. And so, you know, as I'm in this business and creating products and working on projects, the more that you do this, the more you really realize how difficult it is to make anything, and you need to rely on your community for the support to create something meaningful. And so this is sort of somewhat based on some experiences that Creighton and I had when we moved out of the city and felt that sort of isolation and the fact that we were disconnected from what was going on in the art scene and in the film scene. And so in this reality, they kind of struggle against each other rather than struggling against social forces or cultural forces, simply because they've taken themselves out of the culture, and so they don't have any ability to affect culture, and therefore they can only really affect each other. And in this particular reality, that sort of suffocation creates conflict between the two, as they try to express themselves in a place, in a nothing place where expression isn't as possible as it can be when you're surrounded by a group of creators. So we'll move on to section 3 in a minute here, but I just want to catch people up on the general concept here, which is I'm shooting a psychedelic adaptation of A Christmas Carol, It's called XMAS in July. It's on Kickstarter right now. You can check out the project page for more information. I'm trying to sort of explain the overarching story of the film, the deeper layers of meaning in the film, and over the course of the next 2 weeks I'll be joined by some of my collaborators on the film, and I'd love to be talking to them about various projects that they do and various ways that they see artistic production and film production in the culture today. Behind me we have a gold wall. That's for a scene we're shooting this weekend. I've been working on the gold wall this morning. I'm going to get back to it. But first I'm just going to keep talking through the plot of this film. We've landed in Section 3, and Ebenezer and Cratchit have just experienced the horrible isolation of living in the country. Not that living in the country is so terrible. This brings up a larger point, which, you know, trying to create social commentary without being a hater. Because there's a lot of tearing down that comes out in our culture. We live in a culture of calling out. People have been calling out the sort of wrongs of our culture. That's sort of a thing that's happening now, which I think is absolutely wonderful. I think it's great. There are so many things that need to be addressed in our culture and in the way that we make cultural products as well. But the flip side of that is that it's easy to create social commentary and social criticism that if you take a step back, then really all you're doing is tearing down other people's existence or denying other people's existence. And I don't mean to say in this film that living in the country is a bad thing. I think it's beautiful. So I'm sort of trying to walk the line between a personal story and a universal story, which is, you know, the basic sort of concept of any film, is that you take your personal experience and you try to universalize it in some way. But I want to create social commentary and social criticism that doesn't have that flavor of hating on a particular lifestyle or a particular scene. And it may appear like that on the surface, that I'm making a film where I'm going to trash the music scene, or I'm going to trash the high art scene, or I'm going to trash country living, or, you know, this and that. But the truth is what I'm trying to do is figure out the structure inside of ourselves that makes us into Scrooges, and the structure inside of ourselves that says, hey, listen, you need to succeed, and there are certain ways in which you can succeed, certain structures that you can jump onto in order to succeed, and you need to do that now and sacrifice whatever else because you need to get your piece of the pie and survive. And that's a natural impulse, that's a natural instinct of humanity and any animal instinct. But I think in the monoculture that we face today, there are these pitfalls and these traps and these dangers in which you can become a Scrooge, and you can lose your perspective on other people's experience. And so through these alternate realities, I'm trying to show people who have lost their ability to see other people's perspective. And that's really what a Scrooge is to me, is somebody who is unable to step outside of their experience, to see the world for what it is. And what is it? I have no idea. But these are structures that I struggle with personally in my own psyche. I try to stay away from this kind of thinking. Which brings me to part 3, which is the fortune section. Now, in this section, Ebenezer and Cratchit wake up and they live a very wealthy life. They have tons and tons of money, and this comes directly after the family section, in which they don't have a lot of money, but they do have these children. They have this house. They have these certain things that are culturally moving them forward in a certain direction. which comes after the fame section, in which they're sacrificing themselves in order to jump onto the larger sort of cultural machine and try to get through life that way. And in this particular reality, they have tons and tons of money, which they collect by acting in commercials, and Cratchit is a hand model for photos and stuff. So she has beautiful hands, and her hands, I don't have beautiful hands, but she does. And we make all this money by hawking products onto the general public. And this is something I've had a little experience with, trying to go out for commercials, and I never managed to book anything, which I've thought a lot about the reasons why. Probably because I just can't quite put myself together for the sake of a Cheetos commercial or whatever it is. But and the whole idea is that you really have to care about whatever it is that you choose to do. So I went out for commercials for a few years, but I never managed to book anything because I never really cared that much, because I didn't feel like it was important to care about being in a McDonald's commercial. I just felt like that was something that I just didn't need to put any psychic energy into. And I think for that reason, I never booked anything. Now, this gets to the root of what I'm talking about, which is how we sell ourselves for the sake of success or the sake of stability. Now, in this section, Ebenezer and Cratchit shoot their commercials. They have tons of money. They go to the plastic surgeon. They're completely obsessed with their appearance. They're utterly solipsistic once again, and that's a recurring theme in every section. The characters sort of become these solipsists in which no one else in the world exists but for themselves, and they go through life as these kind of horrible monsters who don't even recognize the people around them as people. And this is sort of trying to get to the worst. When somebody is looking at you, but you can tell that they're looking through you, and so that's the kind of worst of that we're trying to get at. And then at the end of that section, Ebenezer and Cratchit wake up back into their normal lives of struggle, where they work office jobs and freelance jobs, and they just try to get by. And in this, they wake back up and they say, "Oh, thank God! Like, what a horrible series of nightmares. We got everything we ever wanted in each of these realities, and then we were shown why those things that we wanted turned us into horrible people." And they move forward in their lives, and they don't have power. They are not Scrooges. They live in a world where everyone is struggling. Everyone around them is struggling. And Ebenezer goes to fold shirts at a large retail store as a holiday helper. And so in this sort of way, the film has an anti-redemption story to it, which I think is problematic for Christmas films, since everybody wants to see a happy ending. But there is some happiness there. There is some measure of happiness in the idea that we all have a choice to become a Scrooge or not become a Scrooge, and I think that I think it's people get under the impression that it's not a choice and that they have to somehow, and sell out. Selling out is a funny term, and I feel like in our culture now, and maybe this is wrong-headed, but I feel like with the just tremendous number of people trying to get into the arts and the tremendous lack of resources, I feel like it's become totally okay again. And in fact, a good thing to do is to do this thing, this selling out. That term has been transmuted into meaning less that somebody is turning away from their passions to create a commercial product, and more that they have jumped an echelon in their professional lives. And part of that is, and once again, I don't want to be a hater about this, because part of that is true. And I think the fact that these generations of people who exist now have seen the rise of the internet. I think the mass culture is much more intelligent and much more keyed in to the structures at play behind the media products that they consume. And so so I do believe that the transmutation of that term, selling out, is in fact partially real, and partially aligning yourself with a major corporation is a very good idea, and you do jump an echelon in your professional life doing that. And the awareness that people have of the sort of structures at play make it less of a bad thing to be doing this, and more of a good navigation of the world at large. And in any case, I could go on about that forever. But anyway, selling out. What is that? This is a gold wall that we've got. To catch anybody up who's just joining in, my name is Joel Clark. I'm directing a feature film called XMAS in July. It's a psychedelic Christmas film with a lot of strange elements to it. It's a loose adaptation of A Christmas Carol into modern day, sort of a Scrooge origin story in which Ebenezer Scrooge and Cratchit, his partner, attempt to navigate through life without becoming horrible people. They're unable to do so through their fantasy realities, and wake back up in normal life with no power and no money, and they count their blessings for maintaining some kind of values in the face of the monoculture. So. But of course, we've been talking today about sort of breaking down this idea of monoculture and trying to not be a hater about it, and trying to see how the culture has advanced and people are very keyed into the structures at play underneath the things that they see. So we're going to continue on here. Just going to plow forward. I couldn't figure out how to turn on the question and answer section. We'll get that figured out for the following broadcasts. We are going to be broadcasting on Friday with the musician Greg Fox, who is in a lot of amazing projects, including Liturgy, Guardian Alien, and Z's. He's an incredible musician. We're going to be talking with him on Friday about various things. He's going to be scoring, doing some scoring for the film. He's acting in the film, performing in the film, and he has this incredible project out now called Mitral Transmission, which I suggest you look up. It's a beautiful, beautiful project, and it is music created off of a feedback loop from a heart monitor that Greg attached to himself and his fellow musicians. And he's explained it to me a few times, but I still haven't quite got it. So we're going to be talking about mitral transmission and how that music is created on Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to sort of wrap up here with an explanation about this Dickens versus Darwin paradigm that I've set up. The clip that we released, the first clip we released, and upcoming clips of the Dickens-Darwin dichotomy has created a lot of questions, a lot of people asking me what the deal is with that. And so I want to try to give a brief answer to that particular set of scenes. The ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future are represented in our film by three dualities. And these dualities each annihilate each other. Charles Dickens and Charles Darwin represent the ghost of Christmas past. And this, it's a series of three scenes in which the two sort of battle each other, and Darwin always wins. This is my attempt at sort of creating an allegorical sequence to sort of the 19th century division between art and science, the 19th century idea that the spectrum of love and the spectrum of competition are on two different planes, and they don't have interaction with each other, that love has nothing to do with survival. And I've talked at length with certain people who know a lot about Dickens, and I've talked at length with certain people who know a lot about Darwin, and I'm going to try to get them on some of these hangouts in the coming days to discuss this further. But in brief, sort of on the surface of it, it's pretty straightforward that Charles Dickens is trying to defend the sort of romantic ideal, the love thy neighbor. You know, Dickens was not he was a secularist. He was a Christian, but he was not, you know, a very religious person, but more of a humanist, and he was interested in the social change. But the story always has to do with love and love for other people, which is still inside of a Christian schema, where Charles Darwin, although he was in fact deeply religious himself, Charles Darwin's writing sort of created this the trajectory of understanding the world as an expression of natural selection. And I've talked at length about natural selection with people who know way more about it than I do. But there's a lot of misconceptions about evolution, and I don't want to be reductive in my treatment of Charles Darwin, because it's a very interesting character, played by my wife, Creighton Atkinson, in the film. The makeup was done by an incredible makeup artist named Ari Rosenbaum. He did the Dickens and Darwin looks. He really knocked it out of the park, and we filmed these three sequences, two of which we've yet to release. But in any case, Darwin sort of represents the movement of humanity towards capitalist-based and survival-based economy, rather than the sort of church-dominated human equality kind of feeling of a previous age. And it is a bit of a reductive dichotomy, but nonetheless, I think they were good figures to choose. They were certainly aware of each other's work. I don't think they ever met, and I don't think they would have disliked each other that much. But in any case, the struggle between sort of art and science, I think, is an outdated, sort of an outmoded debate. I don't have any interest in debating the values of each next to each other. It's comparing apples to oranges in one way, and in another way, everything is all intimately connected. And we're seeing now a lot of science-based art in the high gallery scene, and a lot more creative expression in scientific communities. So I feel like it's an old debate, which is why I gave that debate the title of Christmas Past, because this is the kind of thing that we need to move beyond as a culture. Because there's really no point in arguing for our territory. We all share the same territory. We're a global community, and every person has just as much right as any other person. And any people involved in the arts have just as much right as people involved in science. And there's no need for that debate to continue. So the ghosts of Christmas past end up annihilating each other. Charles Dickens and Charles Darwin fight to the death, and then later they are seen happy together, but not present, in the form of a photograph, a love daguerreotype, which is one of the backer awards on our Kickstarter campaign, which you can check out. You can go to Kickstarter and search for XMAS in July, and you'll find us and check out the info about the project there. And maybe just sign up for a Dickens-Darwin love daguerreotype, which will be featured later in the film when Dickens and Darwin are not present. The struggle between art and science, the struggle between love and competition, is no longer a struggle, but the two have been merged. We see them happy together, however, not present. So, if that explains anything, or if it just makes it more strange, I don't really know. But in any case, those are the ghosts of Christmas past. Just to give you a sneak peek, the ghosts of Christmas present are represented by a robotic cat and a Christmas tree. And this sort of represents the commercial aspect of Christmas next to the naturalistic element of Christmas and the holiday solstice time, which I believe that Christmas now less than ever has less of a religious significance and more of a sort of broader cultural significance in the holiday season, that time of year. The evergreen tree, I think, is a very interesting sort of part of Christmas that came very late, actually, sometime around the publishing of the original Christmas Carol. The Christmas Carol kind of brought Christmas back into vogue. It was a secularization of Christmas by Charles Dickens. It was in fact kind of the first kind of a PR stunt. What Dickens did is that he put in a bunch of his own money to produce a very beautiful edition of the book, this beautiful copy, small green bound copy with color illustrations, and he put a lot of his own money into the printing of it, so it would cost almost nothing. And they did a large printing of the book, and it was made cheaply available to everyone in England, and it did in fact have an effect, and Christmas sort of became this more exciting time culturally rather than simply a religious ceremony. And Christmas trees came into vogue at sort of tangentially to that. So, goodness gracious, speaking of tangents, I don't really know what I'm talking about anymore, but I was speaking about the ghosts of Christmas present, the robot cat and the Christmas tree, as the Christmas tree representing the sort of naturalistic side of the holiday season, the sort of magic of Christmas, the natural magic of that time of the year, and the robot cat sort of representing the commercial aspects of modern Christmas. And then the ghosts of Christmas yet to come, I'll leave for another time because it's even harder to explain. So regardless, I think that I've sort of talked your ear off about the meanings behind this story and the sort of broader cultural significance that I'm trying to draw out with this film. We're going to be doing more of these broadcasts through the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be talking with a bunch of my collaborators on the film, musicians, technicians, actors, and other filmmakers as well. We'll be doing a chat with filmmaker Dave Boyle, and we're going to be talking to musician Greg Fox on Friday at 12:30 Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about his album Mitchell Transmission, which is a beautiful piece of work that I still don't understand how he made, so I'm going to try to get him to explain it to me. Once again, I'm the director of XMAS in July. It's a feature film that is currently raising funds on Kickstarter for the next 2 weeks, and you can check us out there and learn more about the film. I hope that this session has been explanatory in some fashion and not just making it more confusing. But and next time I'm going to have this Q&A feature over here figured out, but for right now it's telling me it's disabled. Yeah, and I tried to explain Dickens and Darwin, the dichotomy between love and competition, the 19th century debate between art and science, which I think is outmoded, and we need to just move beyond and move into the future as people who can change perspectives and understand the perspectives of other people and sort of see ourselves as all equal members of this world, whatever it is, and to not become a Scrooge, which is the trial of life, and the trial of this film is to not become a shut down person, a person with no perspective, a solipsistic person who is only out to get their piece of the pie. I want to move forward through life as a respectful member of my community, and just make cultural products that have some value to them and some significance and are entertaining. So stay tuned for more exclusive footage coming to the Kickstarter campaign. That's Xmas in July on Kickstarter. And help us spread the word by spreading that link around. We're going to make something that's very, really genuinely unique here. It's just so crazy that I really don't think that it's going to be like any other film coming out this year, unless Jodorowsky's making something. And I don't want to sound like an egoist when I say that, but I wrote a really crazy script, and we're going to shoot it, and it's going to be something. So climb on board, and please leave a comment, reach out, ask questions. I'd love to engage with everybody about this and sort of move forward with a greater understanding about what this film is and who it's for and who's involved. So again, tune in on Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for my conversation with musician Greg Fox. We're going to talk about some of his projects and his involvement in the film, and I have a lot more interesting interviews lined up with other filmmakers, other collaborators, and just in general interesting people. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to sign off here. I see I got 2 of you guys down there, 2 viewers. What's up? Thanks for listening, and we will talk again soon. And have a wonderful day. All right. Bye-bye. Gold wall. Gold wall.